empowering because you learn, like, I can master my physiology. I can take myself from a heightened state of fear and actually go into a state of exceptional focus. It's hard, I think, to put into words for myself because it's a game changer.
Welcome to Fierce Planet Adventures. We're a couple on a mission to live a life full of outdoor adventure, purpose, and passion through self-mastery and personal challenges. We're sharing an authentic look into our journey, our successes, and our struggles. I'm Andy.
And I'm Casey. Today we'll be discussing transformational practices and how these tools can help the outdoor adventurer climb to greater heights or help anyone looking to find more balance in their lives, especially as we navigate our way through these uncertain times.
Catherine is the head facilitator and co-author of Kokoro Yoga. She is a 500-hour experienced registered yoga teacher certified in Crossfit Level 1 and TRX. She has 15 years experience of dedicated practice and teaching in meditation and yoga. She also delivers customized trainings, workshops, and lectures for Sealfit, Unbeatable Mind, and Kokoro Yoga. Catherine spins her knowledge, personal practice, and continuing education to create a powerful and transformative environment for self-discovery. Catherine earned her BA in Film Studies at San Francisco University, and her favorite director is Alfred Hitchcock. Welcome, Catherine.
Yeah, thank you for having me today. Appreciate it.
What's great about your life this week, Catherine?
Oh, what's great about my life is getting in the oceans. It's starting to get a little warmer here in Southern California, so getting to body surf and surf a little bit. And people can sit on the beach as of last week. You still have to do, of course, the 6 feet apart to each, group of people, but you're allowed to be on the beach and access everything. So that's very nice.
So during this time of COVID, how has your life changed, specifically around your time in nature and your work and personal practices?
Yeah, so my time in nature has definitely been impacted, with everything getting closed down, not feeling like travel is as at the fingertips, and especially international travel, not being able to get on a plane and go somewhere. And so especially, and also when they close the beaches, because that's a big part of my time in nature here in Southern California, is to be on the beach and or the hikes in the local areas that often are coastal. And those all got closed, for about a month and a half, 2 months. Work life has not changed drastically for me. I work from my home the majority of the time before COVID. It just made it 100% of the time. And we were already set up pretty much virtually. Most of our meetings were already, because our COO lives in New York and one of our other general managers lives in Las Vegas. So we all meet on the, Zoom anyway. So that didn't get too impacted. And my practice actually has deepened in some ways just with the quiet. Just the energy is quieter. There's not as much of that hustle, social life quiet down. And so that's gotten a little bit richer and juicier in some ways. So yeah, that's kind of how it's been through COVID. I'd say socially, I haven't been impacted. I'm not a very go out social person. So the not being able to go out didn't affect me that much.
Speaking of international travel, you recently took a trip to Europe, right?
Yes.
That sounds pretty exciting. Would you tell us a little bit more about that experience?
Yeah, so Mark, who is the founder of Unbeatable Mind, and my stepdad, we got invited to go and teach at an event in Germany. And we did a 3-day, a full immersion yoga event with this company called Takatina, where they do percussion, but it's an in between the beats, so it's supposed to be somewhat of a meditation. And we actually initially, when we first were asked to do this, we were all supposed to be in the same room and kind of going back and forth, but that's not what happened. So we ended up having our own room. So we taught yoga, philosophy, breath work, movement for about 70 hours with very few breaks. It was all night, all day. and we did a little mini Sealfit 20X in the middle of the night one on a Saturday night. So we took a group of people out. So it was a very interesting. I've never taught that much in such a short time, and yeah, but it was fun. And then we went from there, once we were done with the event, to Amsterdam, my mom, Mark, and I, and then to Paris, which was wonderful. And there was a shutdown of the public transportation in Paris. And so we ended up getting to walk everywhere, which just made it really fun. We got to see it in a different way than I think we would have if that hadn't been happening.
Oh yeah, definitely see a lot more walking.
Yeah, it was really nice. And so I was just reflecting with them yesterday how great it was that we got to go on that trip right before everything kind of got, closed down.
Yeah, we're spending time at our secret Appalachian outpost in eastern Tennessee. We've had to change our plans a little bit, and we're just kind of rolling with it and seeing where it takes us.
Yeah, I was wondering about that because they closed a lot of trails and access, so it just changes everything. And then same with like if you need to stay at a hotel, right, or even stopping at gas stations, that all changed.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, with national parks closing, most of the campgrounds, we've had tons of access shut off to a lot of stuff we like to do, but we're in it together like everybody else and just kind of rolling along with it.
Yeah, I know Utah's opening back up.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
Utah, we love Utah. What does your typical day look like? Pre-pandemic to today, specifically around your morning ritual?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, so one thing that did change was, the closing of any gyms. So I like to do some group classes, and mainly just for the social aspect because I live alone. And so it's nice to go out and be with community. So that was one of the biggest changes. Now, really lucky because we have a gym at our office, so I still have access to that. I haven't used it much, but I can talk about that more. But so my morning ritual, my practice hasn't changed at all since this, in the sense of just the order of things. So I start off my day, no matter what, with my morning practice. And it's a little different than the standard Unbeatable Mind morning ritual because I've had a meditation practice for 20 years. So I still stick to what I do, and I've added in a few things, but I always start off with gratitude that I got from a Rinpoche who travels with the Dalai Lama. So when I was first starting to teach yoga and meditate, I had an opportunity to go see the Dalai Lama speak. And then one of my yoga students hosted a private dinner for the Rinpoches that are, the Dalai Lama's right hand monk men.
Yeah.
And I had the pleasure of talking with this man one-on-one really deeply about my practice, because at the time I didn't have much guidance or teachers. And so I was just on my own. And one of the things he encouraged me to do was to start every day with gratitude. And so that definitely, wake up, say I'm grateful for my life, I drink water, grateful to Mother Earth for the drinking water and the nourishment and the connection. And then I generally light a candle, incense, and then I sit and I meditate. And then after that, which is, again, this is really similar to the Unbeatable Mind ritual, which is great, and that way it fits. After I meditate, which is just a silent, meditation, really, I will do some light movement just to get my body, in a less creaky place. Kind of set my intentions for the day and go forward. And so where it's gotten a little deeper, I would say, is, again, just because things have gotten a little more slowed down, it's easier to dip into that richer place of silence in the meditation. And that's just an energetic thing. Yeah, so that's how my morning ritual has gone, more or less. And I feel like there's been a really great opportunity for also reflection, that I wasn't necessarily doing in the morning, but because it's not as like, okay, I got to get up and go, or it's just created a little more time for contemplation, reflection as well.
You mentioned gratitude practice. Initially, I was really skeptical, and it took me a while to lean into the practice and actually start performing. And when I did, I was just amazed at how quickly I saw the benefits, kind of rewiring my brain into a positive mindset.
It is. It's very powerful. And like one of the things I think too is the days where you practice gratitude and you're not necessarily feeling grateful, and just leaning into the discomfort of, wow, this feels very forced right now. And I'm still going to go through the energy of gratitude. And that in itself often will shift that not feeling grateful,
Right.
or feeling stuck in some way. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, reading your bio, we had no idea you had a degree in film studies.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us about your path, how you went from studying film to being a dedicated yoga and meditation teacher?
Yeah, absolutely. So I grew up in the theater. I grew up performing and had a love for the arts always. I started when I was about 6 years old. And my first actually attempt at a college when I was, well, first I went to college when I was 16. I dropped out of high school and I went to a junior college, and I went where Robin Williams went to junior
Really?
college at College of Marin, and I studied theater there. And then I transferred to the Academy Conservatory Theater School in San Francisco, which is a performing arts college. And then I ended up dropping out. And I moved to LA to pursue acting at about the age of 21, and went back and forth between LA, San Francisco. And at that time, that's when I was professionally cooking. And so I was cooking, I was acting, or trying to. And then right around, I was 25 years old, I decided to go back to school and get my degree in film, mainly because I saw that, as an actor, I was like a pawn in this really big scheme of things, and that I wanted to learn more the basis of filmmaking. And so when I got into filmmaking, what was cool about it, because I really see it, film, television, and media, and even like YouTube at this point, because that wasn't even there, existing at that time,
Right.
are an amazing way to change the climate of the world. And you can see how it's used for the greater good, and you can also see how it's used to manipulate the masses. And and also just like one thing that I was very frustrated with the film industry is it seems like still to this day there's a real constant worship of death, violence, sex, objectification, and where this tool could be used for such a greater discussion. And so I got really, once I got into school, San Francisco is known for its independent filmmaking department, and I actually studied more the theory side of things. So I still studied production and writing, and the writing piece is a big part for me. But it was also the theory of, let's break down, how do you tell a story? Why are you telling the story? And what's the purpose in the impact that you're looking for? And so to actually use it for a tool of change. And so I still have, a deep love and respect for that craft. What happened was, as I started school, I was, again, still cooking professionally, but I had gotten my first yoga teacher training. So I was, 25 years old and moving back to San Francisco from LA. So I had bounced back and forth at that point for 10 years, and really wanting to share my love of yoga, because it had helped me so much with my stress, anxiety, as well as just other emotions that were really big for me, and how to kind of process them, heal from them. Yoga being the science of the mind, like really just learned that. And then also the pain in my body had really freed up. I had a lot of chronic pain in my early 20s, and I, constantly was like, I'm just too young to feel this crappy already. But again, being a backpacker and a skateboarder and, and all around, like, let's throw my body on hard surfaces type thing, you start to feel that way pretty early on, I think.
Yeah.
And so yoga really saved me in that way. I started to feel better. So I wanted to share it. And I thought, okay, well, first, I'll just offer it to friends. And I ended up getting a friend who had a room that she did trade. So she was my first yoga student. I taught her yoga for trade for rent. And then I started school and I was cooking. And then I thought, okay, well, I want to teach a class, So I had a friend that worked at a studio that introduced me to their manager. And I got one class there and I started teaching there, and I'd have about 1 or 2 students show up for that class. And I'd make my $5 and for my hour and a half. But it wasn't even about the money at all for me. It was really like, I was so, just like, I want to share this love and this excitement about the practices of yoga. And I'm in school. So like, that was my primary focus. And I'm going to move back to LA and, pursue the film afterwards. So that was my plan. And then what happened was very quickly, like within a year of teaching. So I was at that point in my last year of my bachelor's degree, my classes just started to fill up dramatically. So I went from 1 to 2 students to 30 students a class, and then getting into the biggest studio in San Francisco at the time. And then all of a sudden having 60 to 75 students in my classes multiple times a week, multiple times a day. So I was seeing hundreds of people a week, and just like, it became this whole energy in itself. Like, it was never my plan to be a full-time yoga meditation teacher. That was not like what I thought I'd be doing with my life at all. And so then I found myself graduating from college, but having a very full, rich life, and then at that point I was almost 28, and it's like, okay, well, acting is really, at 28 years old, and I'm in the same age group as Angelina Jolie and Jennifer, Aniston. It's like, I don't have I don't have, like, the acting's over. Like, there's no way, that's just, you're not going to compete at that age. Really you have to start at, you're like 3 years old anyways. But and then making films I knew was going to cost a lot of money and, time and energy, and really wanted to do that, but I wanted to do it well. And I wanted to try to, again, speak, like, all the films I made at school were about, like, protecting the planet, and like polluting, or what is beauty. I did like a whole documentary where I had different people saying, I'm beautiful. I'm a man, I'm beautiful. I'm a woman, I'm beautiful. I'm this, I'm beautiful. And just showing the juxtaposition of perceived beauty kind of thing. And, so I was, again, that's kind of where my mind is always at with film, is like, how do you challenge the status quo? And so then, I think I just let go of that dream at that point. But not completely. And I can get into that a little bit. I was talking to Mark yesterday about this, and that I still in my life plan on making at least one great film that speaks in the way that I want to the world. And I think to make one great film versus like 10 that are subpar, would be enough for me. So I constantly I'm working out that idea in my head and how I would do that. How could I create something that would challenge the globe, the messaging, how could I actually wake people up through a film? And so then I just started teaching full time, and here we are. Like, that's it. That was, and I loved it, and things happened in between that changed why I'm not in San Francisco anymore, but that really just, it was great. It was absolutely wonderful. I got to do chanting, meditation, yoga, pretty much 24/7 for many, many years. Yeah.
Our paths in life are very rarely straight.
Yes, they are not. Yeah.
Oh, I find it fascinating hearing stories where you're on one path in life and the universe just kind of shifts you in another direction, but you end up finding a whole new love or purpose in life.
Yeah. I find it really interesting, and I'm not one to just like easily change my direction either. I'm a Capricorn, so like the emblem is a billy goat, right? Climbing up the mountain, stubborn as hell. So like, it's like, yeah, you're not going to get me to change quickly, but it was obvious to me, like it was a calling. Like that was how it felt. Like I'm meant to do this. This is part of why I was born and to be on the planet, was to share space with people and hold a safe container so they can explore their heart energy and dip into love. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, we definitely need more of that in the world.
We do. Yeah.
So you work with Unbeatable Mind, Kokoro Yoga, Sealfit. Could you tell us a little bit more about those programs and what your role is within those companies?
Yeah, sure. So I can give you a little of that history. So my stepdad started Sealfit about 12 years ago now, I think maybe 13 years ago. And that at that time I was still living in San Francisco. They were doing month-long academies, as well as 2-week and 1-week academies where people would come and stay on site, train 24/7 basically with a couple hours of sleep, and then they would do the Crucible event of Kokoro. That was the only one that the 50-hour event. And Mark asked me if I would come and teach the yoga meditation portion of those academies, as well as cook for the guys that were staying on site, and because they needed help and support in that way, because they're having a hard time with the feeding of the guys, with this. Right. It was a big job. And so I did that. I would come down, and that's how I first started working with Sealfit. And I would cook breakfast, lunch, and dinner for, it was on an average like 8 to 15 people. And I would teach the yoga and meditation. And that's where Kokoro Yoga now had kind of started in Mark's world, where when he was in Iraq, he like was putting together his love of martial arts, yoga, with, kettlebells. And so when we started collaborating at the academy, that was kind of the beginning of Kokoro Yoga, because he had what he, from his background of the martial arts and yoga, felt important was to pass on to the SEAL candidates. And so very much was collaborating that way. Okay, what's important? Well, we want to teach them breath. We want to teach them concentration, flexibility, right? Mobility. And also make it so that it's not super, wooey, in the sense of taking away the Sanskrit and the chanting, which was actually really hard for me at the time, because I was very much like in the traditional vein at that point. I was like, you chant you call the name by a Sanskrit name because vibrationally it matters. And so, but I was willing to do that, because first, just out of service, but also because at the end of the day, like I realized here's an audience that would never necessarily do yoga if it wasn't for Mark introducing it to them, as well as if we don't take away some of those pieces of it, and you could see them benefit. So that was where Kokoro Yoga kind of the seed, like the seed was planted for sure in Iraq, and then it was like a little sprout through the crack of the sidewalk there. And then I traveled actually internationally for a couple of years. So I was in Asia, and then I would come back and do that for a couple months during the summers when they had them. And then I'd go back out on the road. I took my truck from San Diego down to Costa Rica and back, and, just camped all along the way. And then, came back and taught the yoga, meditation, and cooked. And then at that point, I landed and I stayed local. And that was right around the time was being created and put out into the world. So I was watching Mark write the book and film those first lessons that have now been completely all done on the online program, but the first online variation of the online program. And yeah, just started being at that space full time and teaching yoga. I started to teach some CrossFit classes and also just support the overall businesses. And so there was like kind of being born, Sealfit shifting. That was actually the academy started to shift to just events, and us having that laboratory of the yoga room and public students and teaching the yoga. And so we started to work on the Kokoro Yoga book within a few years, and the Unbeatable Mind, the book, the program are at that point we're like we're going, and then we launched the Kokoro Yoga program. First the 30-day Kokoro Yoga challenge, and then the yoga online, just the videos. And so that's been what my roles are now. Is I'm the head instructor for our yoga program. If we do any trainings, I generally design them with the support of Mark. So him and I will collaborate on, again, what do we think is the most important depending on what group. If it's a teacher training, then we know what we want to go over. But if it's a specific group that we're working with, what's going to benefit them? Like if it's, let's say a corporate group that is a, executive team, like, okay, well, we definitely want to work on breath, stress management, those kinds of things. And so I develop private events, that kind of way. I, orchestrate them. And then I also design the UME, so the flow of that event, and again with the help of the team. But really, like, I take that first crack at, this is the order of things, this is how the day can run, how will people be supported and engaged as the participants, so that it's fluid. And I think, interestingly enough, for both these programs, that's where my film background comes into play, because I look at everything as a story, and all of us are socialized that way from such a young age. So it feels very organic if you come to an event and there's a beginning, middle, end, and there's, so there's a flow to it. And then I also, I do project management for the company. So any project we have, that I manage and work with the team to make sure it goes from kind of that birth of the idea into commercialization, stabilization, and then out into the world. So I wear quite a few different hats for a small team.
Yeah, sounds like it.
And I don't really work with Sealfit anymore. If I get called in, I've been called in a couple times for events where it's just like all hands on deck. We need another body to carry some water and,
Right.
do whatever, then I help out. But I actually I'm not very involved in that side of the company. Yeah.
Okay.
And I guess also with the coaching, I run the coaching program with Richard Thompson. So I also do that. I grade everybody's tests and videos and make sure that, they're on the right track. And also I coordinate and create the webinars too. So any of the coaching training live webinars, I get the speakers and, again, create that flow. So yeah, lots of different things, but really fun. I love what we do, and I'm really grateful to be part of it.
Oh yeah, we love the company and have found so much benefit from Unbeatable Mind. And that's actually where we came to know you, Catherine, was first Kokoro Yoga online, and then we went to the Unbeatable Mind experience in Carlsbad, California, and started talking to you about our mutual love for the outdoors. Then Andy and I started talking about all the benefits we've got from the transformational practices, and started thinking about how much that could benefit any outdoor adventurer to perform at much greater heights. Is that an assertion you would agree with?
Yeah, I think they help greatly. One of the things, especially for people, now I don't do super technical climbing. I know you guys do, I would say more recluse, just like throw yourself again against the mountain and hope you make it, pray and hope you make it. But what I found in my backpacking, so I had the pleasure of, and I talked to you guys about this a little bit, my brother-in-law, got taught to navigate this area down in Baja, Mexico, that's really untouched in many ways. And it's all wild, no trails. You know, you have to know the coordinates. You have to know, you know, the different parts of the canyons or the mountains to go to, right? And how to, and just really how to navigate it. And so he was taught that, and then started to take me on those trips. And I would say, like, I think the first time I went was right when I was like 17. And so we went for many years, at least once or twice a year. And then I started also backpacking in Northern California a lot, in the Lost Coast and Trinity Mountain area. And so when I started meditating, something changed in my whole experience. And now I was always super grateful and excited to be out getting dirty and running around and, you know, just sleeping under the stars. But I noticed that I had a different relationship with nature, and it was one where my being was quieter, and so I could hear the earth differently. And so, like, when the backpacking trips, normally I would come home like just like ripped apart, you know, every inch that showed through my clothes had a scab, and, you know, bruised and all those things, right? And after the meditation practices, that just completely stopped. I was able to see and ask for passage by the mountain. I started to learn how to ask for that. And so I just didn't get ripped up anymore because the mountain gave me passage. So I think that's one important component and benefit of having a meditation practice, is it helps us hear other vibrational elements. So, you know, often we're at a certain frequency, and meditation, I think, can help us tune into other frequencies, like the earth frequency, right? Which is at 432 hertz. So it's like, if I can take myself from like maybe a 580 something frequency, that's where I'm at, and go to that, then I can hear what the earth is asking for, and be connected in a different way. So, and that might be a little out there for some people, but like, that's my experience. So, and then I think with the concentration and the breathing, stress management. So when you're up right on a wall, and even if you're tied in and have, you know, the tools, like with rock climbing, when I've climbed, it's still, I mean, it still threatens you on an animal level, right? Like, you're being on an animal is like, what am I doing? I'm like, you know, 80 feet up, like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna die.
It's not natural.
Not natural, yes, it's natural, but it's like, well, you know, going side to side, right? And then you breathe and you collect your mind, and you say, wait, you know, stop, take a deep breath, focus. So that's the concentration portion that I think can also make it a lot safer for people. And it's empowering, because you learn, like, I can master my physiology. I can take myself from a heightened state of fear and actually go into a state of exceptional focus, concentration, and not only make it fluid for myself, but also for others. And so that's where it's like taking your eyes off yourself. If you're out there in nature with a team, I've had that happen where, you know, like, say, on the Lost Coast, where a huge wave comes up and grabbed me and my friend. And so we were just like I was holding on to her, you know, with my arm on one rock, both backpacks, and on the other rock, and we're breathing, and she didn't swim that well. So it was very scary for her. So it's like just holding that space. Okay, we're going to be okay. Breathe, you know, hold on here. When the wave pulls back, we're going to run. And so it helps you be focused for also the people on the team, right, that you're climbing with or hiking with. And so again, that service mindset, that if I can control my physiology, I can help assist others in staying focused, concentrated. And also then I think appreciation of nature is another really big one. So I feel like sometimes people go out into nature just to like get it done and be like, this is what I do, you know. And I'm sure you've met people like that in your, you know, travels. And it's almost as, you know, that man conquering nature attitude versus this I'm a child of this planet, and exploration and fun and play, and returning to more of a natural state. Like, this is how we're supposed to live. That, that's another important piece. So I feel that that's the other part of it, that meditation helps you. If you meditate in the morning when you're backpacking or camping, there's like, you see the magic in the nature and the beauty, it just in a different way. And then the whole trip is a meditation. So it's no longer like my meditation's just this piece in the morning, but just like, every moment of it. I think it's just super beneficial for outdoor activity.
I heard two important things there, Catherine. First is that perhaps focusing on the journey and not just the destination, and also that you're much more easily able to tap into a flow state.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I would say, for me, that's how life is in general. It's just a flow state from being in, meditation. And so everything is always a meditation. And then when, in more height, like when pushing the limits, like say the 24 hours of burpees we did, you just get way into a flow state, because like that, like what did, people are like, how was that for you? It's like, that was a meditation. Like, I remember looking at the clock 45 minutes in, knowing that I had committed to 24 hours of burpees and being like, oh my gosh, I have 23 more hours. And that's the nature of the mind, right? And so then It's like, okay, Catherine, like, no, you cannot go there right now. So this is breath by breath, moment by moment. And then you spend 24 hours that way, and it's beautiful. It's that flow state, and you get to be in the soup of life, it's just like, it's just really cool.
We talked about backpacking and skateboarding. What other outdoor activities do you enjoy?
Yeah, I absolutely love to backpack, and I love to go with others, but I really love taking time in nature by myself. I think it's one of the most special things that I've done for myself. I started camping when I was alone, right around the age of 21. So even before I started meditating. And I did it at first to face the fear, because as a woman, you get told it's not safe to do things like that by yourself. And I still get told that, but like so it was really to face that fear. Like, I can be out here by myself. I know enough about how to navigate, and, like, I had learned enough. And so and then, but then just the silence and the, being with animals. And like, I just finished a book on meditation, and it'll be coming out in a month or so. It's called Sacred Silence. And one of the stories I tell in the book is about how that beautiful opportunity to sit with a herd of elk for a whole day, and the buck came and sat like 3 feet away from me, which a lot of people are like, that you should have moved. And it's like, no, he knew I'd been meditating by myself for days. Like, so it was just a vibrational thing. So I got to sit with this buck for the whole day. And then I asked him to please go a little further away, because I didn't want him to sleep next to me. I was a little nervous about that. and so he crossed the river and went and sat with the rest of the, like 40 elk, and they slept there that night with me. And then they were there in the morning, and then they got up and left. And I know wouldn't have happened if I hadn't been sitting and meditating by myself for 5 days. Like that, those are opportunities that are just so blessed. And I've had, quite a few like that. So, anyways, and then skateboarding, that just was my mode of transportation for a while, more than anything. I wasn't very good at it, but I could go fast, and I could get myself across the city pretty fast. And then my time in like nature, growing up on an island, and then also being back on the beach. I surf a little. I'm not great at it, but I like to try. And then body surfing, I love being in the water. I love feeling like I'm part of the wave. I just think it's so, I definitely feel like a mermaid out there, and just get to like swim and just be with the ocean, which is the largest, part, like its largest mass on the earth, in that sense of like, we have this, it's so large. So just to be in it and feel like you're a piece of this amazing force, and floating and feeling into that is one of my favorite things.